Okay, now we come to our final chapter of the M95 rifles. After World War I, things were chaotic. New countries were formed. All the surplus guns from the defeated powers were floating around, and the Austrian M95s were one of the major rifles that were there in that period of time. Now, the Austrians, much like the Germans, they could have a police force, border guard, stuff like that, but no standing army. So they issued the M95 guns, and Steyr was one of the leading arms producers in the world, and were not allowed to function as a business. So they manufactured everything from cars to bicycles, whatever, to survive after post-World War I. So when it came to selling surplus, they were allowed to repair or modify said guns. So what they did is, in the 20s, decided to go with the 8x56 cartridge and started to rechamber the guns. And then, much like the Italians, they realized that the long-barreled rifles were, obsolete, not useless, and might as well take the guns and modify them to carbines, which is what these two are. They were rifles at one time. The designation I found in one book is the M95 31A. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I just read the book that I have on it, and these things were reworked everywhere. Okay, they were given away as war reparations. They were remodified, overhauled and used by several countries, given away as military aid. So I guess in the 30s, the Austrians themselves, or actually the Czechs, the Hungarians, whoever, decided to convert these, and that's what these guns are. And these showed up in the 80s along with all the leftover stuff. I believe the Bulgarians kept these in reserve all those years until they were sold off as surplus. So one way of telling is, number one, most of them have a import mark on the barrel. So both of these do, and these did come in that period of time. And I don't think they were selling these things for more than $50 a piece at the time. So it was pretty wild. And the other thing you notice is they have long rifle sights. Rear sights are rifle sights. Okay? And they've been modified. We'll take a look at the long rifle and look at the sight a little later. Now the top one is okay, and you can see Steyr M95, again 16, and this one was stamped with an S, and I think they tried to stamp an H on it. As you can see the remnant there by the S. And if you look at the rear sight, it only goes to 2,200 meters, I guess. And we'll take a look at the rifle sight and show you how they modified that. Other than that, the bolt, the action and everything was done. They must have cut down the rifle stocks to go with it. Cut the barrels down, reset the rear sight. These guns all been re-blued, finished, ground off any butt plate markings, and the one on the top, the Steyr, really doesn't have anything interesting on it in terms of markings. Got your stacking swivel, and I'll show you the mods. Now the rifle on the top, what they also did as standard modification is plug the rear underside sling swivel hole, mounted one through the wrist and on the side. So now all of these were in carbine configuration with the side mounted sling mounts. And you can see that they've all been refinished very well. and not in bad shape. So that's not too terrible for a gun that was reworked in 32 or the 1930s and had been in storage. That's when these were done, and they were done by different arsenals throughout Europe and used also in World War II, but I guess one country kept them with the German-made ammunition in reserve for many years later. Now, this second example is a little bit more interesting. While that first one was kind of devoid of markings, it was all basic stuff, we see we have the same conversion here, okay? And again, there's an import mark, rear sight. And this one here is an M95 from Budapest. The S is stamped over the old World War I markings. Rear sight has been done. The sling deal is done. And this one has some other stamps on there. The K and I believe the Hungarian coat of arms are on this gun, which makes sense. It was made in Budapest. Now, this one also has some odd markings in the stock. As we come down here, there's an S on the wrist of the stock, which isn't, I haven't seen this on anything else. And then back here, we have a couple other stampings on the stock, which I have no idea what they are, inspection stamps or whatever. Let's see what else we got. The serial number for the receiver has been re-stamped in this stock. This thing has like 3 or 4 different serial numbers, and this number 46 stamped on the handguard. And again, we've been reconfigured to cavalry carbine sling mounts and that. So this one too is kind of unusual. But let's get a long rifle out here and see how they changed the rear sight. Alright, so I have my 2 long rifles and the modified one at the top. Now, I guess this was the original sight on the 8x50. And there we have it, 3.5 at the battle sight, goes up to 24-26. Okay, and then when we look at the one converted to 8x56, it's somewhat similar to this one, but that one's a bit older. And again, same thing. So when they shortened the rifles, it kind of modified it. They only go to 22, and it's there instead of way up there. They changed and re-engraved the sights. 3.6810. We're down here. We had, let's take, okay, your 3.6810 is spaced differently than on the modified sight after they shortened it. There. And down here, what do we have on the old one? Yeah, big gap. So that's the modification of the sights, and that was how they tried to modernize the long rifle by cutting it down into a carbine and repurposing it, much like the Italians did with their M91 rifles. And these things still were used till World War II and beyond in some far-flung areas probably, until the last of them were sold in surplus in the 1980s. Very interesting story. Alright guys, I'll do a conclusion video and wrap up this part of my collection. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned.